The Metal Gear Solid series is full of themes. Take a quick look on YouTube, the Wiki, or Reddit to see that even 8 years after the release of the last game of the series, people are still talking about it. Why wouldn't you? Metal Gear Solid has a story for everyone, and it's the main reason that we started this channel. Now we could discuss the philosophical components of the series and be in the likes of many of the great YouTubers that came before us. But for today's video, we'd like to focus more on the social discussion of the series. We believe that Metal Gear, like all art, provokes us to reckon with our own beliefs, our own choices, and our own future. The two of us here have been discussing over the past couple of months our real sadness at the lives of these characters. Physical pain would be enough of a discussion itself. However, physical pain is something that you could see. The moment you rescue Kaz and notice that his limbs are missing are just one of the shocking moments that we experience. What about internally? Kojima doesn't hide or shy away from frank discussions of war. In many interviews, most recently, in his interview after the premiere of his documentary, Hideo Kojima Connecting Worlds, he states that his parents survived World War II, and that a lot of the pain that his parents endured was unspoken, but felt. A quote that stuck out to us from this documentary was, "I don't want to portray combat as heroism." Memes are a core component of the series. Memes are typically known as funny images that are passed on the internet. However, there's a second definition to them, which is used in Metal Gear Solid 2. Meme. An element of a culture or system of behavior passed from one individual to another by imitation or other non-genetic means. Let's focus on the non-genetic aspect of that definition. Memes can be passed down to individuals that are not necessarily related. A meme that was passed down to us was the non-lethal options that are available in this series, and the pacifist philanthropic discussions in this series as a result of Kojima's parents and World War II. Kojima's parents experiencing World War II. Kojima witnesses his parents' pain. Metal Gear Solid does not portray combat as heroism. Using memes to discuss the passage of beliefs and/or behaviors through individuals is brilliant in a world focused on war. We rarely encounter a character whose parents are still alive, or whose parents raised them. The usage of memes indicates that despite the lack of genetic connection, there's still potential for the passage of information. In Metal Gear Solid, memes are not the only concept passed down from generation to generation. Trauma, more specifically, generational trauma, finds itself wrapping its fingers around every character in this series. In all of us is the capacity for greatness, for joy, for sorrow. We are the culmination of our ancestors, the genes that make us, and the experiences that shape us. As babies, we crave connection and warmth. Being held, spoken to, and caressed all promote healthy brain development. Studies have shown that skin-to-skin contact elevates oxytocin levels in parents, which alleviates symptoms of anxiety and stress. What happens when our needs aren't met, however? What happens when our provider, our caretaker, is cold and standoffish? It isn't enough for humans to be fed and housed. We crave connection, emotional support, and stability. In their book, The Integrative Neurobiology of Affiliation, Sue Carter, Letterhandler, and Kirkpatrick witnessed the effects of inadequate care in institutionalized children who were abandoned. Romania's last communist dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, in his attempt to boost Romania's economy, imposed tax penalties on those without children. This limited, if not completely reduced, all abortion and contraceptive access. Children were left in cribs with bottles at just the right angle to be fed from. Nurses and caretakers, overwhelmed with the sheer amount of babies in their care, rarely picked up or soothed babies who cried. These institutions, despite being home to hundreds of babies at a time, was eerily quiet at all times. Due to this deprivation of physical touch, some children didn't make it to adulthood. For those that did make it, what became of them? To answer this question, we don't have to look much further than almost all of the characters in the Metal Gear Solid series. The world of Metal Gear Solid is a world consumed by war, and it's ridiculous to think that these characters' lives and beliefs aren't shaped by it. The trauma of this world exists in every interaction, decision, and relationship they have. Like memes, it's also intergenerational. The trauma of one character passes on to the next and to the next, regardless of biological connection. Trauma is more insidious and is the missing conversation in many Metal Gear discussions. Like memes, how significant is the trauma these characters experience? Like memes, are these being passed on to the next generation? Are they a more powerful vehicle of passing down information than memes are? That's what we'd like to discuss. Trauma decontextualized in a person can look like personality. Trauma decontextualized in a family can look like family traits. And trauma decontextualized in a people can look like culture. Without any context, many characters' personalities can be reduced to a few words: pain, sorrow, revenge, vengeance, revengeance. Trauma is so insidious. Have you ever went through a particularly bad day or week and find yourself apologizing to friends and family about your behavior? Sorry about last week. I was going through a lot. Yeah, I was having a bad day yesterday. My bad. We all recognize how difficult days at work or during stressful moments our personalities shift. Sadly, for some of us, stress is a constant. Many characters struggle with the trauma of what they experienced, and it's difficult to separate their actual personality from their responses to said trauma. For example, it's hard to not think of Big Boss as anything other than a man bent on revenge. However, when we think of him in Metal Gear Solid 3, what do we see? A humorous,
You're crocked, aren't you?
friendly,
Code breaking is a desk job. Where'd you get this kind of scar?
You really want to know?
charismatic man.
You're pretty good.
After the death of the boss, it's apparent that the betrayal he felt shifted his personality and worldview into something that is completely unrecognizable. Let's take a look at Solidus, the forgotten son. His worst fear, to be honest. Real quick though, isn't his story kind of sad? Like, this man's only goal was to be remembered. That is so sad. Solidus was consumed by the idea of leaving a legacy. He was furious at the fact that he couldn't have genetic offspring. He wanted to be remembered for his own actions and not as some puppet for the Patriots. In thinking of Solidus as a person, it's hard to think anything other than a goal of leaving a legacy. He was consumed by it. His personality and trauma is a direct result of the Patriots, and he actually winds up passing that on to Raiden.
I claimed you for my own and raised you as a soldier in the army of the devil. I am your foster father and your worst enemy.
Why?
Because I needed to know whether we were really someone else's creation. We're repeating history, Jack. Liquid and Solid hunted down Big Boss, trying to sever the tie that bound them to him. Unless you kill me and face your past, Jack, you will never escape. You'll stay in the endless loop, your own double helix.
Solidus's little experiment on Raiden led to the conflicted soldier that we see in Metal Gear Solid 2. If Solidus was the first generation, Raiden is the next one. He was raised by Solidus to be a child soldier. War is all Jack knew. Rosemary enters his life and he falls in love. For all we know, this is the first time that he's ever felt this way. Throughout Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden is nervous to engage with her during this mission. He's scared of her being too close to who he is, to what he was raised as.
The only people who have no problem with my past have secrets and agendas of their own. Terrible nightmares. Every night. I can never forget.
Jack.
I'm afraid of the night. That's why I don't sleep next to you.
You should have told me.
Told you what? That I'm a killer and always have been?
No.
What I hate more than anything else in the world is my own past. I didn't want you or anyone to know about it.
The amount of trauma that Raiden shares with Rose is wonderful. You could really tell that he trusts her. You could also tell that this is heavy on his mind, and that opening up is new to him, and he's dumping all of this on her during his mission, during work. Since Raiden has no basis for healthy relationships, they also struggle in communicating.
I just thought that if we had more time to spend together that...
You were thinking of your own danger.
Well...
Don't you think it's selfish to expect everyone to be at your beck and call? I'm not your personal possession, you know.
That's not how I think of you.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Listen, I like you, and I like the me that likes you. But I do not like being summed up as Jack's girlfriend. The very thought of it makes me shiver. There's a lot more to me than just being your girlfriend. The fact that I'm doing the job I want to do is part of that, understand?
Yeah, of course.
Post MGS2, we come to find out that Raiden is reliving childhood trauma, along with the trauma of Rose's deception, the fake AI scenario, and engaging in normal life.
After the Big Shell incident, he became unstable. Memories began to resurface from his childhood when he fought for Solidus in the Liberian Civil War. And in the midst of all of that, the baby we had together, It hadn't even been born yet. Jack slowly stopped coming home. And when he did, he'd be dead drunk, sometimes covered in cuts and bruises. Roy was worried. He was Jack's commanding officer. But Jack just avoided him.
Their relationship isn't great. It's not good at all. But why would it be? We have no history on Rosemary's early life, but we have that for Ryden. And we know that the environment he was raised in was not one of communication and support. Despite the two of them wanting to be together, they don't know how to be. Without any basis of a supportive relationship in their early life, combined with no idea on what a good relationship even looks like, they work with what they know. Ryden continues being a mercenary, and Rose continues at what she's doing, avoiding his outbursts and ultimately just trying to keep him safe. We can even hypothesize that she enters psychology in order to further understand Ryden. Despite wanting better and deserving better, without any support or the ability to adequately address the past, Ryden is unable to conceive of a better life. To reinforce this idea of trauma affecting a family unit, we could turn to Gray Fox and his relationship with Naomi. Gray Fox aims to provide her with stability and a future due to his guilt with killing her parents.
I was young then, and couldn't bring myself to kill her too. I felt so bad that I decided to take her with me. I raised her like she was my own blood to soothe my guilty conscience. Even now, she thinks of me as her brother. But from the outside, we might have seemed like a happy brother and sister. But every time I looked at her, I saw her parents' eyes staring back at me. Tell her for me. Tell her that I was the one who did it.
While he's able to secure her future by funding her education, their respective traumas are all that guide them. Naomi is consumed by understanding who she is, such as her genetic background. She then seeks revenge on Solid Snake for killing her brother. Gray Fox continues being a soldier even after immigrating to America. Later, he's subjected to even more trauma thanks to Dr. Clark. After which, he's only fueled by the idea of dying. The two of them, similar to Rose and Ryden, had an out, a chance at a normal life. Gray Fox was unable to do anything other than fight in war. Naomi was consumed by her early life and could do nothing but seek out an education in genetics. By their involvement in both studying genetics and being a soldier, they are brought right back into the same environment that created them. Similar to Ryden, without any basis for understanding how their environment and trauma had shaped and affected them, they were doomed to repeat the cycle. Gray Fox, in his attempt to right his wrong, ultimately just prolonged Naomi's path to revenge and pain.
Foolish man! He prayed for death, and it found him.
There is no greater example of culture in a people than looking at Outer Heaven in Diamond Dogs. Essentially, you have a base full of the most deeply traumatized soldiers on the planet, led by a man that couldn't get over his mother's death. we made a video discussing Outer Heaven. So if you haven't seen it and are interested, please check out the link below and give it a look. But putting it simply, Diamond Dogs was a family with their own beliefs and goals. Pain is important. How we evade it, how we succumb to it, how we deal with it, how we transcend it. Rose, Raiden, Solidus, Grey Fox, Naomi, all consumed by their past. Every action that they took in their lives was to rectify an evil that was done to them. More appropriately, every action was a reaction. Whether you find it to be a romance or a bromance, the relationship between Snake and Otacon is the most stable and supportive in the entire series. They're the least problematic. Snake and Otacon, both individually and collectively, promote some of the healthiest takes in the entire series. Snake and Otacon actively try to build each other up. They want to see each other succeed. Unlike other similar relationships, it doesn't feel like a competition. You have two men who actively show their affection to each other. Snake and Otacon are similar to so many other characters in terms of their upbringing. Both had terrible fathers. Their fathers affected them even from the grave. Both Otacon and Snake experienced death and destruction throughout their entire lives. They, like many other characters, were born into war. What is so significant about Otacon and Snake, however, is how they were able to transcend it all. Unlike Huey and Big Boss, who perpetuated the trauma onto the next generation, Otacon and Snake don't hold on to that anger. Despite the massive losses that each character has experienced, both in love and life, they continue to show support for each other and for the characters that they engage with.
How could you come back to all this? Why keep fighting?
There's something my best friend said to me once.
What?
We're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at, but at least I always fought for what I believed in.
Are you two really an NGO?
Insofar as we're a non-profit organization of civilians advocating a cause, yes. The cause happens to be the eradication of Metal Gear.
We work on our own, but it's a cause worth fighting for.
Why would you stick your neck out for something this risky?
That's the way I used to look at it 4 years ago. I was holed up in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, drinking too much.
We have a responsibility to the coming generations, to the world,
What responsibility?
to keep track of the mistakes we've made as a species.
We need to remember, to spread the word, to fight for change, and that's what keeps me alive.
You think you can change the future?
I'm not as arrogant as that.
Snake, by the time he meets Raiden, has already defeated Big Boss twice. Otacon himself holds a philosophy of destroying all the Metal Gears he could find. Snake and Otacon show the capacity for greatness in all of us, the capacity for hope and healing. It's never shown if they get therapy in-game, but the way in which they analyze the world, despite there being no record or history of them receiving consistent and supportive care as children, is phenomenal. Is Snake just resilient? Was Dr. Strangelove's brief few years of raising Otacon that significant? We can only speculate so much with this series. Their tale, however, is a testament to the possibilities within us. Despite generations experiencing war, less than adequate care and support, there is still a possibility to be better, to be greater. greatest example of Snake and Otacon being the first to break their generational cycles and growing past their trauma is Sunny. Sunny is their daughter. After being rescued by Raiden, Otacon and Snake decide to raise and hide Sunny in the Nomad. Sunny holds no malice nor memory of war. Sunny is raised to know her mother, Olga, and to understand the sacrifice that she made. Sunny's talents and interests are loved and supported. Well, except maybe her cooking.
And would you make some for Snake, too?
Hey. Not for me, Sonny.
Sunny's allowed to be a child. Imagine if Big Boss had raised her. We saw how Chico ended up. Imagine if Gray Fox raised her. Sunny would most likely be hell-bent on avenging her mother and possibly replicating what Naomi did. Snake and Otacon have committed acts of evil, and they know that.
What you do isn't grassroots activism. It's more like terrorism.
I admit that.
They're actively trying to right the wrongs that they have committed, while also still holding space for joy and inspiration. Sunny is the way she is because Snake and Otacon have made the effort to confront their own demons, their own trauma, to prevent as much of it from affecting Sunny. Generational trauma is not something you get over in one generation, but Sunny will grow up knowing that she is loved, that she is supported, and with the history of the past, so will she continue on the path that Snake and Otacon have started. Hi everyone, TK&M here. Thank you so much for your feedback and kind words on all of our videos. If you haven't already, please like and comment on something you enjoyed, or any feedback you have. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already.
All of that helps us know that we're moving in the right direction. We're open to suggestions of videos, so feel free to let us know in the comments below. We'll also put the links to our other videos below, as well as links to our social media. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye-bye. Goodbye.